Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to talk about Shakur Stevenson and the possibility that he could be facing George Kambossas from down under. Really quick, if you like the videos, please like, please share, and please subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already. And also, while you're free and while you're looking at the video right now, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. So let's jump back to this. So, listening to Shakur Stevenson in a recent interview, he was frustrated. Not for the typical reasons that somebody gets frustrated in boxing, meaning like, say for example, he has a belt and he's trying to unify. That's a great reason. Right now, he's just mad that people are ducking him. And, apparently Pitbull Cruz, Issac Pitbull Cruz was supposed to be, one of the guys that he was supposed to fight, and Isaac does not want that fight. And I've said it many times. I've actually done a breakdown between Shakur and Isaac. I don't blame Isaac. It's not a winnable fight. I do not blame him. By all means, I know it sucks, and I know it could come back to haunt him and bite him in the rear in the future because it looks like, you're cowering away from something. But it is not a winnable fight. It really isn't. Shakur Stevenson is not even hit his prime yet. He's physically coming into his growing into his body, but he hasn't reached his prime skill-wise, and he's dangerous and extremely skilled as is right now. But let's talk about George Kambossas. Well, first, let me just backtrack a little bit. I know it is frustrating, you can't get the fights that you want or anything like that. And quite frankly, Pitbull, if you ask me, is hot right now. He's a great fighter. He's very fan-pleasing. And that would do wonders for Shakur Stevenson for two things. One, Pitbull has a growing fan base. And people will show up and show out just to see Pitbull fight. So that means more eyes on Shakur Stevenson. But two, they're not with the same promotion company. So what does that do? First, that brings us to the old Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence issue, the initial problem. You're on this side of the street, I'm on this side of the street. Well, it's not going to be the hardest thing in the world to have Pitbull fight Shakur Stevenson because he's not a huge name like Tank or something like that. So you could easily make your way across the street and then say, hey, it can be done. We did it with this fight. So I don't want to hear any excuses after I beat Pitbull and I say that I want Tank. No excuses. Well, those are the two great reasons why Shakur Stevenson would want that fight. And, but unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to happen. Do I blame Pitbull? No. I just, there's one thing. Listen, if you're going to have a manager, if you're going to have a team, if you're going to have trainers, I think it's one thing they need to coach you and make you a better fighter, but they also need to be truthful to you. And the truth is, this is not a winnable fight for Pitbull. So it is what it is. Take a different route. Now, let's talk about George Kambossas, which said, if he were to lose to Devin Haney in a rematch, he will retire, which clearly he may not be retiring, or he definitely has no real plans for that. And I think it was just either something to promote the fight and get people really excited what's going to happen, or he was just in his feelings in the moment and he needed some extra motivation while he was training, and he said it out loud, hoping that we, the fans, the people, would hold him accountable to what he said. So now that putting that extra pressure on himself, it would make him fight even harder in the fight. However, he still lost to Devin Haney, so didn't really have the added effect either way. But that being said, how does the fight with Shakur Stevenson and George Kambossas play out? Not very well for George Kambossas. I have not been shy, not once on this channel, to say how much I appreciate Shakur Stevenson, and I am just in awe of his skill set, his know-how, his ring intelligence, his pacing, his punch selection, his footwork, his defense, his knowledge, his knowledge that, he has the knowledge of a veteran as a young guy. He's going to be dangerous, and he's dangerous now, but he's only going to grow in that danger. George Kambossas is everything Shakur Stevenson needs to look good and to make other fighters in the division say, I don't want to fight that guy. Like, George Kambosos is all of that. Basically, it's going to look like Devin Haney fight all over again. It's going to be a jab fest, and it's going to be fought with a lot of space in between because George Kambosos doesn't know how to really close that space off. And if it does get to that point, I think that Shakur can manhandle him in a clinch. So I think Kambosos is a good fighter. I do. I don't think he's in that upper echelon, but I think he's a good fighter. I think he is ferocious. However, I think he fights with his emotion, which is where that ferocious come from. And it has not served him in the past. And I said it in his fight with Devin Haney 1 and 2, it would not serve him in those fights. It did not serve him in those fights. And if you think Devin Haney's going to get under your skin, Shakur Stevenson is relentless verbally, and he's relentless in the ring. Because at least Devin Haney will engage with you. Shakur Stevenson is not even going to do that. Shakur Stevenson is Money Mayweather. Money Mayweather was like, I don't even want you to get near me. I want as little contact between us as possible. I want to hit you, but I do not want you hitting me. I want to keep my space, and I don't care if the fans boo. I don't care if they say this is a boring fight. And it's going to be very lopsided, very one-sided, because that jab's going to be in the face of George Kambosos the whole time. George Kambosos is going to throw those combinations. However, he won't get off on all of them. Shakur Stevenson is not going to be there. He has great footwork. George Kambosos, he likes to fight in spurts, so he'll rush you. He does the rushing tactic, and that works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but you can't do that for 12 rounds. And you can't do that with 12 rounds with somebody who's like a wizard like Shakur Stevenson, because he's going to pick up on that, and you're just going to end up getting yourself clipped. It's going to basically be Rolly and Tank all over again. You're just going to run into something if you try that rush thing over and over and over again, round after round after round, and being very obvious in your approach. And however, because of the nature of, styles make fights, it would eventually turn into that, because the fight would turn into frustration and desperation on behalf of George Kambosos, where it's like, I just got to get my hands on him. If I get my hands on him, maybe I'll hurt him. And the rounds are just going by. We got 3 more rounds left. I might as well go for broke. It's going to turn into that type of fight. Shakur Stevenson, I just think is an overall better fighter. George Kambosos, he's not in the winning column right now. However, this would be a heck of a fight for him to try to get back into that winning column. If I was George Kambosos, I would scream, no, give me Pitbull. I don't want to fight that guy. It's not going to serve him. Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson is a much better boxer than Devin Haney. And all you need is basic boxing skills to beat George Kambosos. A jab on its own will defeat George Kambosos. And when you add that with the footwork of Shakur Stevenson, and when you add that with the bodywork of Shakur Stevenson, the combinations of Shakur Stevenson and the verbal warfare of Shakur Stevenson, because he loves to talk in the ring. You mix the talking of Shakur Stevenson in the ring with the anger management issues of George Kambosos when he's in the ring, that's not going to play out too well. Because out of frustration and desperation, he's going to run into something that's going to get him clipped. So overall, I don't think it's a good matchup. But one thing I can say about George Kambosos, he's not a boring fighter. He's not the guy who's going to show up and give you a boring fight. You will get your money's worth. You will be well entertained with George Kambosos in the ring. If there's nothing else I could say for the guy, I would definitely say that. I will definitely say that he's willing to put it all out there. He's willing to lay his heart out and give it his all. And there's nothing to be displeased with in his attempt and approach to be victorious in a fight. But we are talking about whom I believe is the creme de la creme of the division, Shakur Stevenson. I think he beats all the guys. I think he beats Tank. I think he beats Ryan Garcia. I think he wipes the floor with Teofimo Lopez. I just think he beats all those guys. I think he also beats Devin Haney. I think Devin Haney would be the hardest matchup only because it'd be more of a chess match than a fight. But he would definitely still beat Devin Haney. I think he has still more tricks up his sleeve. Then when you compare Shakur Stevenson with who he hangs around, he hangs around Andre Ward, unified world champion, okay? Ex-unified world champion. But nonetheless, did it all. Terrence Bud Crawford, Clarissa Shields, and he was raised up in the Mayweather gym as well. He spent some time there under Floyd. I'm sorry. What George Kambossas has is not going to be enough to deal with what Shakur Stevenson has for him. So those are my thoughts on Shakur Stevenson versus George Kambossas. I wouldn't be mad to watch the fight. I actually think it'd be a pretty good fight, but I think it'd be a very lopsided fight in the end. Those are my thoughts. Drop your thoughts down below. What do you think about a matchup with George Kambossas and Shakur Stevenson? Do you think it'd be a great fight? And how do you feel about Pitbull not wanting to fight Shakur Stevenson? Drop your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to the channel.